According to IIT Indore, the heat waves recorded in the month of March and April have broken the 100-year record. It, accompanied with the intense monsoonal rainfall, is responsible for the climate catastrophe in Pakistan. According to NDMA, 90% of the crops, 50 million people have lost their lives as a result of floods, and one-third of the country is currently covered under water. Similar flood-related disasters are visible in Odisha, where 8 lakh people have been affected, thousands have been displaced. But what's the reason of this adverse weather phenomena that we are witnessing right now? It's nothing but climate change, which according to IPCC, if not handled at the earliest, would result into the water level rise in Ganga, Brahmaputra and Indus, leading to large-scale destruction. The vulnerability of the small island nations with respect to the climate change remains extremely high. For example, the increasing sea level rise would result into the coastal erosion, where most of the economic activities of these nations are concentrated. For example, 5 Solomon Islands have been destroyed partly because of the increasing sea level rise. The another impact of the climate change is warming of the ocean, which shall result into the complete loss of coral reefs. For example, the Caribbean seas have already lost 80% of its coral reefs, which has been the mainstay of its economy.
Climate change is a major global challenge, but climate change is not of our making. It is the result of a global warming that came from the prosperity and progress of an industrial age powered by fossil fuel.
There is no doubt about it that developed nations are largely responsible for the current climatic crisis that the world is facing. But the burden of bearing the brunt of this climate crisis is unproportionately shared by the developing nations. For example, Miami Beach is currently installing pumps in order to mitigate the impact of the floods, but Haiti, located just nearby, doesn't have the resources to do the same. Therefore, it remains the moral obligation of the developed nations to transfer funds, resources and technology, not only enable the developing nations to mitigate the impact of the climate change, but to also adapt themselves to the consequences of the inevitable climate change. For the same purpose, Green Climate Fund was established, whereby it was the obligation of the developed nations to transfer $100 billion every year to the developing nations. But in reality, the money transferred remained extremely inadequate and shameful.
India has a population 20 times larger than the United Kingdom, but the British produce 4 times more emissions per person.
Therefore, it is clearly visible that the developed nations are shying back from paying its dues. They continuously argue that the developing nations, including India, should accept the doctrine of common responsibilities, that is, they should completely wipe out the use of coal and fossil fuels. This argument not only seems illogical, irrational, but also appalling. India recognizes its responsibilities towards the greenhouse gas emissions, and for the same purpose, it has taken a number of initiatives, be it establishment of the International Solar Alliance or declaration of the Panchamatra principles at the Glasgow summit. It is definitely going to be an expensive affair, but the cost of inaction is going to be humongous, both in terms of human and wild resources. We have to just take a minute and think, why are we doing, what are we doing, and for whom? If we surpass the 1.5 degrees Celsius limit set by the Paris climate, there is no turning back. And in this context, Gandhi's vision that there is enough for everyone's need, but not enough for anyone's greed, remains extremely important.